Artemis II. The Artemis II lunar mission, which will be conducted by NASA in 2024, will be the first time astronauts to orbit the moon in almost half a century. With the help of a Space Launch System rocket, the mission will send for humans into space in an Orion spacecraft for a lunar flyby. Returning around the moon is the goal of the Artemis II mission, which will take place over the course of 8 days and involve 4 astronauts, 3 from NASA and 1 from the Canadian Space Agency. This will be the final test flight before the crewed Artemis III lunar landing mission in 2025. The spaceship crew: Koch, Christina Hammock. Christina Hammock Koch became a NASA astronaut in 2013. She worked as a flight engineer on expeditions 59, 60, and 61 of the International Space Station (ISA). Koch achieved a record for the longest solo female spaceflight of 328 days and took part in the first all-female spacewalks. Has been assigned to NASA's Artemis mission as Mission Specialist I. NASA expertise: Koch attended the NASA Academy program at Goddard Space Flight Center in 2001 and began her career as an electrical engineer at GIST. She was chosen as one of 8 members of NASA's 21st astronaut class in 2013 and completed astronaut candidate training in 2015. In 2018, she was assigned to her first space voyage, a long-duration mission to the International Space Station. Koch has been assigned to NASA's Artemis mission as Mission Specialist I. Jeremy Hansen. Education: Jeremy Hansen graduated with honors from the Royal Military College of Canada in Kingston, Ontario, with a Bachelor of Science in Space Science in 1999. In 2000, he received a master's degree in physics from the same institution, with a research focus on wide field of view satellite tracking. Special recognition: Clancy Sheldrup Memorial Trophy Outstanding Graduate on the Basic Flying Course of 2001. Canadian Air Force Pilot Wings of May 2002, Canadian Forces Decoration of 12 Years of Good Service October 2006, the Queen Elizabeth E. Diamond Jubilee Medal of 2012, Gold Medal of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society of 2014. Space Mission: Jeremy Hansen, a Canadian Space Agency astronaut, will go to the moon on the Artemis mission, the first crewed flight test of the Orion spacecraft, which will launch on the SLIS rocket. He will be the first Canadian to set foot on the moon. Victor J. Glover, Jr. While serving as a legislative fellow in the United States Senate, Victor J. Glover, Jr. was chosen as an astronaut in 2013. He was most recently the pilot and second in command on the Crew 1 SpaceX Crew Dragon Resilience, which arrived on May 2, 2021. It is the first post-certification trip for SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft, as well as its second crewed journey on the International Space Station. He was also a flight engineer on Expedition 64 of the International Space Station. Glover has been assigned as the Artemis mission's pilot. The California native has a bachelor's degree in general engineering, a master's degree in flight test engineering, a master's degree in systems engineering, and a master's degree in military operational art and science. Glover is a naval aviator who has flown the F-18 Hornet, Super Hornet, and Eagle Roller as a test pilot. He and his family have been stationed in numerous areas in the United States and Japan, and he has served in both war and peacetime deployments. NASA experience: Glover was chosen as one of 8 members of NASA's 21st astronaut class in 2013. He finished astronaut candidate training in 2015, which included scientific and technical briefings, intense training in International Space Station systems, spacewalks, robotics, physiological training, T-38 flying training, and water and wilderness survival training. Glover has been assigned as the Artemis mission's pilot. SpaceX Crew 1 and Expedition 64 on November 15, 2020 to May 2, 2021. It was the first post-certification mission of SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft, the vehicle's second crewed flight and a long-duration mission at the International Space Station. He was also a flight engineer on Expedition 64 of the International Space Station. While on the station, he helped with scientific inquiries, technical demonstrations, crop cultivation, and shooting hundreds of photographs of Earth. He spent 168 days in space and took part in 4 spacewalks. The commander: Wiseman, Reid. Reid Wiseman worked as a flight engineer on Expedition 41 of the International Space Station from May through November of 2014. Reid and his crewmates did approximately 300 scientific experiments in fields including human physiology, medicine, physical science, earth science, and astrophysics throughout the 165-day trip. They achieved a new record for station science by conducting 82 hours of investigation in a single week. Reid's first voyage also comprised nearly 13 hours as the lead spacewalker onto trips beyond the orbiting complex. Throughout his trip, Reid maintained a strong NASA work experience. Reid was chosen as one of 9 members of NASA's 20th astronaut class in June 2009. Reid began astronaut training at the Johnson Space Center in August 2009 and completed it in May 2011. He was a flight engineer on Expedition 41 aboard the International Space Station and commanded the Nematinty-1 mission to the Aquarius Reef habitat off the coast of Islamorada, Florida. He was the chief of the astronaut office. Wiseman has been named commander of the NASA Artemis II mission. The Artemis I-4-person crew will orbit the moon but will not land. The manned Artemis I circled the moon and returned to Earth in December as part of a mission to test whether the new ship was safe. On the Artemis E expedition returned to flight test by NASA, the 4 astronauts will prove the life support systems and validate the capabilities and procedures needed for people to live and work in deep space.